In this video, we're breaking down how to read the court as a setter in the game of volleyball. Let's get right into it immediately. As a setter, there's only 3 goals that you have to have. The first one, set a hittable ball. Your number one job as a setter is to give all your attackers an option to hit the ball. So it's important wherever you're on the court, no matter how bad the pass is, if you can get your hands on the ball or your platform on the ball, finding ways to make that set hittable, put it in a good spot for the hitter, that is priority number 1 as a setter. Number 2 as a setter, our second goal is finding one-on-one matchups. The higher up level you get in the game, the more and more vital it is to get one-on-one matchups, because when you get those matchups, you're more likely to side out. And the higher your side out percentage, the better team success you will have, the more likely you are to win. So finding one-on-ones is a major key. And lastly, the third goal is setting your best option. Sometimes that's setting your best player. Sometimes it's setting the unexpected player that has no block because the defense doesn't expect it. But as a setter, you have to be the quarterback of the offense. You have to make the right choices, knowing who's the best option in a lot of different scenarios. A pretty significant piece of the setter position. And here's a couple random tips to improve your overall game as a setter. First, take a peek. It's always helpful to give a little look, see where the block is set up. When you know where that middle's at, you have a better shot making a good decision on the set, making a good read. Also use your peripheral vision. You don't always have to take a full glance across the net. Sometimes it's just using your feel, using that peripheral, seeing movements left and right, where they're shifting, where the block is sliding left and right. Use all that information to your advantage when deciding who to set. Another tip, don't be afraid to double, triple, quadruple set. I see a lot of beginners, a lot of early setters just go from one guy to the next in kind of the same rhythm. Like you set one person, you set the next, you set the next, and you go in a circle. Like it should not, setting is not orderly. It should be random, and part of that randomization is setting guys back to back. Sometimes they're not expecting it. You go back to that person that just attacked. There's a good chance they're going to put it away the second time if they weren't the first, because that defense is not expecting you to go back to them. And that leads right into my last tip of being unpredictably simple. What does unpredictably simple mean? You want to be unpredictable. You don't want to run a vanilla offense. You don't want to set the same guy over and over again, same simple routes, simple concepts. So you have to be unpredictable. Every once in a while, making the long set across the court, sometimes making the tight set to a middle when you're out of system, being unpredictable. And on the flip side, sometimes you want to be simple. Sometimes you are out of system and you can only make the high ball set. There are times when you need a point and you have to go to your best guy. Everyone knows you're going there, but you're going to go there anyways because they side out at a high clip. So balancing those two, being unpredictable but being simple, is the best way to approach the setter position. Finding that balance is the sweet spot that we're going to get into with all this film, but understanding that you need to be a little bit of both. Make it easy on your hitters, be simple, be unpredictable, stay away from the block. With that, let's get into some film study. First piece I want to touch on is finding our middles. As a setter, you need to be able to set the middle, find them in serve receive, first ball side outs, in transition, not just setting our pins all day long. So let's look at some clips here. First one, we have a perfect pass from Darvin, bringing Joe past the midline of the court on a perfect ball. Perfect 3 pass. So he sees it, slides, and is up early and sets Pogue here, who puts this ball away. Like I said earlier, a lot of making choices setting is reading the block. And Joe, as he slides here, he feels this middle in front of him, so that gives Pogue a lane to come back to the right side of the court. Based on his route, he's just running a 1 ball. So this is very simple, keeps this ball in front of him on his hitting shoulder and gives him room to use this entire side of the right side of the court. Now this is a good set because Joe is all the way pushed here. If Pogue was early and running a different route, maybe a 31, maybe a float route, that might not be as advantageous of a set because this outside is here, pinching, helping on the middle. But since it's just a simple one ball, keeping it on his right shoulder, this is the right call, the right read here. Easy point. All right, we have a pretty similar play here, just a different middle. This ball comes into Devin. He makes another perfect pass, just again sliding into the midline of the court. And when you do that and just have a simple pop route, that gives Mason this entire quadrant of the court to finish. Joe feels that this outside is not here helping. So that's a one-on-one, and like I said, when you get one-on-one options, we like our chances with anyone, but especially in the middle, one-on-ones in the middle. You have to win those matchups and you have to take advantage of them. So Joe puts this ball right where it needs to be, on his hitting shoulder. Their middle's late to begin with. He's looking at the ball too much. Mason beats him to this ball and puts it away. Really good on both sides, on the route by Mason, on the swing, and on the choice by Joe to give him this ball right away. It's equally as important to understand as a setter that you have to execute both the decision and the set. And you'll see that in this example here, as we have one more middle ball with a perfect pass by Devin, bringing Joe right to the middle of the court. He can feel and see the outside is pinched here. Since Joe's front row, they're going to stack a little bit here. And this is setting us up for another play down the road. But for now, he's pinched in the middle, and Joe sets this ball to the left of this double block, basically negating the entire double block. The outside hitter, the outside blocker on Stevenson, he's sitting and holding for Devin, who's coming in. He's not helping on this block. He's too late, so that opens up this avenue for Pogue to pretty much hit bodyline, hit straight because of this set. Like, this is such a good set. Feeling the help from the outside pull in and then setting outside of that double block, giving Pogue a lane to attack this ball and put it down. Really good. So when you do that, when you set the middle with a double block, finding pieces, finding gaps, it's kind of like play action pass on football, right? You establish it, you establish the run, you sink in the defense, and then it opens up everything else. So when we do that, it opens up our ability to reverse flow, spread the offense out, and find other attackers like the D ball here. So this ball comes into Darvin. Again, Joe's setting midline. This block stacking again, kind of thinking that same route's going to take place. This this outside hitter is completely pinched in to help. And Joe throws this ball back, reversing it to the D ball for an easy kill to Diego on basically a no block. So when we set up that middle first, it allows us to open up the D ball on a 1-on-0 option, which if you have a good back row attacker like Diego in this case, we want to take advantage of that. We want to make the most of it. This set doesn't happen as well if we don't first set up that middle. So Joe feels this. He understands that they're going to pinch here, and that opens up his decision making to set this D ball. So really good by Joe. All right, sticking with reversing the flow, here's one more example on a ball in transition, playing out a long rally here. Stevenson sends his free ball over and Darvin takes it. Perfect pass to Joe here. Now he has all his options, right? In transition, Pogue did a good job of taking a quick two-step approach in transition. Diego's got a full approacher here, got a full approach on the outside, and Devin on the right side. We're in row one, so our outside and opposite are flipped in this scenario. Joe's got all his choices here, and he makes the choice to reverse this ball back to Devin, running quick tempo, and because of that, he gets a one-on-one. Devin puts the ball away. And this is a good choice. Good choice in transition. Their middles react a lot, right? Like, all eyes are on the setter. So if you're running quick routes on the pins, you're typically going to score because they are so keyed in on the setter, and then he's almost beating his own blocker to this ball. So good attack by Devin. Good choice by Joe to reverse flow, a little bit of creativity there, and a good play overall. Next topic I want to bring up is when to set our pins. We discussed finding our middles, finding ways to give them lanes, looking at the block, feeling when there's help in different spots, and knowing what routes we're already running so we can decide if it's the right time to set the middle or not. Those same principles apply to setting up pins, knowing when to set them. Here's a great example of when to set a pin. We have a float serve in from Stevenson, and Devin dots his pass up, and Joe's right here with a lot of options. We have Mason coming in, but he's coming towards Joe, which is taking away their middle pretty much, pulling him in, giving us a one-on-one on the pin with Will and their setter. Joe recognizes that. He sees Mason bringing in their middle, sets a quick tempo ball to Will. Easy kill for Will. The thing here, what we like to do is we're not using our middles as a decoy. We're establishing our middles first, getting them involved. Their middle blocker has to stay home. And when he stays home here, we know we have a one-on-one on the pin, and that's why Joe makes that right choice. Kind of another example of reversing the flow, because the flow of this pass takes Joe back, right? Some people might make this set back, but since this middle blocker is already sitting right here, Joe sets this ball back on anything slower than a back two. There's going to be a good chance they get a double block here. So he smartly feels the middle and throws this ball to the pin, and that's an easy point, and you have to be able to capitalize on those type of sets. The last clip I want to touch on is setting back row. And once you establish all your pieces, you set the middle, you set the pins, you spread out their block. So originally you see the opposition's block will be stacked based on different rotations, but our ideal scenario is to spread them out, bring them together. And when they're spread, we find our avenues between them with the middles and our back row attack. When they're bunched, then we throw the balls out to the pins in quick tempo to get them going back and forth like they have no idea what's going on. That is our overall scheme, our overall offense. Here's an example of that with Devin. On a beautiful serve, we get an overpass, and Will decides to take this ball and use it. So now we got all our options here. Perfect pass. Middles, eyes deadlocked on the setter. Pogue running in good tempo. Since Stevenson likes to watch the setter's eyes so much, Joe makes this choice of setting the bick in this crease here. It's almost like a back row gap ball, and Devin puts it away. Ideally, in this scenario, we get this middle up in the air with Pogue, so I'd like to see Pogue, right? I'd like to see Pogue up a little earlier here. If Pogue gets up here a little bit early, maybe he takes the middle with him, but at any rate, this is kind of Stevenson's blocking scheme. It's just watching the setter and then reacting, and even that, he gets a good block up, but Devin finds the gap and puts this ball down. But when you are able to set the back row like that, that sucks in their block, so they go from being in base here really far extended to having to pinch in here to stop that back row attack. And like I said, you want them going in and out, creates creases, creates lanes, opens up the setter dump, all things as a setter you want to be able to attack. Now, this is just a small piece of being a setter. I talked about some concepts, talked about some routes, broke down some film. I could talk about this for 1,000 videos straight. So if you have specific questions about any of these things, hit the comments and I'll answer whatever I can, whatever I know. But hopefully this will get you guys started if you're new to the setter position on who to set. So it's not just a guessing game. I want you to read the block. I want you to feel where the blockers are at. Know who you set already, gives you kind of an understanding of what might be open. Take advantage of your best attackers, who's going to score in different spaces. You put all those things together and you're going to be a better setter. So thanks for tuning in the video, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.